Hey folks, one of the first unique locations players come across in Breath of the Wild is the Dueling Peaks. Whilst not forced to visit, following the tutorial segment on the Great Plateau, we are softly guided directly to the location. The King of Hyrule uses it as a checkpoint on the way to Kakariko Village. Now, other than it looking incredibly cool and being home to 3 Sheikah shrines, 4 if you count the Stable Shrine, the Dueling Peaks are actually a little bit mysterious. But why? It's just 2 mountains coming together to form a cool looking set of peaks. Well, I've got news for you. These magnificent mountaintops were actually once a whole mountain. At some point throughout the history of Hyrule, it was split down the middle, creating the Dueling Peaks. This is even canonically confirmed in the Creating a Champion book, as it's noted in the sketch ideas for the location that it did indeed split. However, the reason for this happening isn't exactly known. Well, known for sure. There are some hints and speculation found in the game. However, the origin of this magnificent mountain duo might be problematic, and that's exactly what we'll be discussing today. Be sure to go and grab yourself a snack or drink and send them in to get featured right here, and also be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel out. And let's get into this one. Standing at the top of West Necluda's mountain landmark, we can get a really good view of Hyrule, but also a better scale of how truly high up these peaks are. One is slightly higher than the other, but in the grand scheme of things, not by much. Together, this is one of the highest points in Hyrule, and by no means an easy feat for the average person. Whilst maybe seeming obvious, I will note now that I'm ruling out the idea of this split being man-made. So where do we begin? Well, let's take a look at those hints I mentioned. Deep within Faron, at the lakeside stable, we can find Shay, an old man who resides here. If we talk to him, he'll tell us a little tale. After asking Link if he has a map, he'll go on to point out the Dueling Peaks, and tell Link this. Well, apparently that used to be just one mountain a really long time ago. The legends say a dragon god split the mountain in half to forge a way through, and that's how it went from 1 to 2. Recently, some are even saying they've seen the shadow of a large creature on the surface of Lake Floria. I wonder if any of that is true. So, according to local legend, a dragon god split the mountain in 2. The location Shay resides in is even right next to one of Farosh's spawning points, Lake Floria. But can we trust a local legend? I'm not sure. Here's the thing. I made a video on this topic a couple of years ago, and let's just say I took the piss. I basically took that little legend and then made up a story of my own to go alongside it. I even made it out like a theory when in reality there was no evidence to prove what I said. So what did I say? I suggested that a long time ago, back when dragons roamed the land, which they once did, evident by all the dragon remains, hints and even weapons made from their bones, that one got in a fight with another, likely Farosh, and split the mountain in half. Now, whilst that idea is absolutely ridiculous, there is one aspect of it that I still stand by. Not the idea itself, but rather the speculative approach. This is the type of mystery that requires a speculative approach. There isn't much solid evidence to argue with. All we know in regards to the Dueling Peaks is that there is a legend that states a dragon god split the mountain in half to forge a way through, and also that it definitely was once whole and indeed split into 2 peaks, as said by the development team. However, they said nothing on how it became split. As for our information on that, we just have a legend to go by. Maybe this will sound stupid at first, but the dragon tale isn't necessarily true, and let me explain why. Firstly, this part of Hyrule is not somewhere that Farosh has ever seen flying in or around. The nearest place is probably Lake Hylia, and from what we see in game, all 3 dragons stick to rather set paths when entering Hyrule for their brief period of time. Personally, I believe this could be because they have set spawning points. Strictly set spawning points. Secondly, given that this is a legend, nobody currently alive, and presumably for a very long time, actually saw this happen. If it even did. For all we know, it's completely made up. A fairy tale. Something fun to tell the kids, you know? But whilst not necessarily true, there are some points to say it could be. One of those points being a location that Farosh does actually spawn in at. The Gerudo Highlands. During the dragon's visit to Hyrule up here, we see the majestic creature flying low for a little part of the top of the highlands, a sort of rugged trench. But if you look closely, you'll notice that it almost fits perfectly for a serpent-like creature to easily pass through. It's almost as if Farosh made this then on the highlands to pass by. That would explain how the edges are so rugged and messed up. It really looks as if the ground is just being pushed out of the way and up, creating this little trench. I mean, how else could this happen? There is a Lino nearby, but even with their incredible strength, something on this scale wouldn't be possible for it. This passage on the top of these mountains certainly isn't natural or man-made. Rather, dragon-made. I think so anyway. If true, it definitely confirms that the dragons can craft the landscape with ease. I mean, why wouldn't they be able to? They're massive dragon gods. So could there be validity to this legend? Yes, but also no. And this is exactly where the title of this video comes from. That is the Dueling Peaks problem. We don't know. Even the part of the legend about it being to forge a way through is very possible, and to be honest, with all of this being literally written into the game by the developers, it is likely that this is true, but because of the way the information is presented to us, it isn't possible for us to take it as fact. It's presented as a possibility. Even Shay himself says he wonders if any of it's true. Now, he could technically be talking about the dragon sighting, but he says wonders if any of it's true, so I'd assume that means the whole thing he just told us. The origin of the Dueling Peaks is a back and forth conversation of a point for and a point against, but never actually coming to a solid conclusion, and honestly, that's what makes this location such an amazing place. Without considering the points just discussed, it's just a stunning landmark. I say just a stunning landmark, imagine seeing that in real life, you'd be bloody amazed. All we know for sure is that it did split at some point, but as for how exactly, we don't know. For all we know, it could have been some sort of high magnitude earthquake and nature made the passage possible. Over time, somebody made up a little story based on how the landmark looks, and it became a legend. Stories do need some sort of inspiration, and if a landmark such as the Dueling Peaks was in a writer's face, it would be perfect inspiration for a story. Now, whilst not one of my longer videos, I wanted to make this video because I've always found the Dueling Peaks and the problem with knowing their history pretty interesting, as well as put that older video in the past and have a well put assessment on the location. Now for the biggest, most important part of the video. What do you think about the Dueling Peaks? Is the legend true that Frost split the mountain in half to forge a way through? Could it have been something else, such as an earthquake? Or hey, maybe even a dragon battle? The possibilities are open, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to drop a like and maybe consider subscribing, it'd help me out massively. If you want to see what I'm up to every day and take part in polls, Q&As and whatnot, then follow me on my socials linked below. And as always, a massive shout out goes out to all of my channel supporters. If you'd like to join them and get yourself a shout out upon joining and your name at the end of every video, then consider supporting. It's a huge help to running the channel. Links below. Again, thanks for watching, have a nice day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.